Hey everybody, it's the Beardy here from the Beardy and the Baldy channel, bringing you the very first of my new series of my top 13 movie countdowns. So this is going to be a countdown from 13 to 1 of my favorite movies of all time. Now a little bit quick thing about my videos, or this list, is that they have to be movies that are not part of a franchise or a series, so no sequels, no continuations, no prequels. So they're standalone movies, one and done, and that's it. That's what qualifies to keep them in here. I do have a list of movies that I kind of hold above my top 13. I call them my ultimates, and they're anything that's like a series or a franchise that I think maybe the individual movies as a whole are not as standalone, but as a whole, be it a trilogy or, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and the Hobbit movies, they're on there because they're a little bit above and beyond. But this is my top 13 standalone movies, and we're going to start today with number 13. And I'm going to be rewatching these things to kind of get them back fresh in my mind as we go through these each week. And it's the fall, so I kind of wanted to do this in the fall. So here we go. Number 13, my top 13 countdown, is the 90s... I don't know, would you call it a cult classic? I'm not sure where this lands, because I know it wasn't that commercially successful when it first came out. I myself didn't see it until a couple years after it was released, I was in college when I saw it, so I missed out on the original thing, and maybe that's a good thing, because I was at a place where I was able to appreciate some of the things in it more, having seen it a couple years late, rather than at the time it was, because well, you'll see in a moment when I reveal what it is. Number 13 on the countdown is 1995's Empire Records, with an all-star cast of people. I mean, you got Ethan Embry, Robin Tunney, Liv Tyler, Anthony LaPaglia, Renee Zellweger, and a whole bunch more people in this movie. It is a knockout great movie. I mean, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's got a lot of great music in it. And I think it so well encapsulates the mid-90s and what it was going on in music and a lot of things. Visually, like there's, you watch some movies and they try to capture kind of retro-looking things. Are we calling 90s retro now? But I just watched, X-Men Apocalypse this summer. And I'm trying to capture the 80s vibe in that movie. It felt very what we think of the 80s now, not what the 80s were. So I think trying to make a 90s movie now, 21 years after this came out, wouldn't look the same unless someone put a lot of effort into capturing what it really looked like and not just the glossy side of it. Because you see a lot of things in here, from the way people dress and styles that, being in high school in the 90s, the early 90s, I clearly identify with, or remember seeing a lot of these things in here. But anyway, it's a very 90s movie as far as the visual and the look and the music and everything. But at the same time, the story is pretty timeless, I think. I think it could have been set in the 80s. It could have been set, yesterday. It doesn't matter what the time period is. There are some differences now, because, when this came out, we didn't have, iTunes and all the digital downloads and stuff. I mean, internet music pirating was probably in its prime at this point. I mean, internet went, public for consumers in what was like 93, 94? So anyway, getting off the point. Empire Records, full of, I think, some of the best quotes in a 90s movie. You got, what's his name? Is it Rory Cochrane plays Lucas, this guy back here with the black hair. He's hilarious. The movie starts off with Lucas, the night manager of a independent record store in I'm not sure where it is. I think it's like New Jersey or Delaware or something, because he drives to Atlantic City in one night, so he's not too far away. Realizes that the store's in trouble, that a big music industry chain is about ready to buy out their beloved independent store. So he takes all the money from the safe and goes to Atlantic City and tries to win more money and he does really good at first, and instantly fails and loses all the money that he came with, not to mention the money that he doubled. So the movie whole setup is that the store's missing a lot of money. There's a celebrity musician guest coming, Rex Manning, who is kind of this epitome of male bravado chauvinism in the music industry at the time, and this swagger and strut and everything. So he's coming to the store that day, and of course all of the employees in the store, who are probably in their late teens, early 20s, all of their problems come to a head at one point during the course of this movie. And it's hilarious, it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking. I mean, you've got, you deal with, there's drug addiction, there's, attempted suicide references, people just struggling with being noticed and seen and accepted among the people they work with, just day-to-day stuff of jobs going on. And it's just, I don't know, to me, I don't want to say it's a perfect movie in that regards, but it just really lands for me. And then through the whole movie, there's this underlying plot, which, when I was in college and I first saw this, kind of resonated with me, was the young artist guy, AJ, who's decided he's going to tell the girl that he's been in love with for a while that he loves her. And of course, it's like the worst day possible for her because she's obsessed with this, the celebrity singer, Rex Manning, that's coming to the store. So it's just really cool because you get to see, because you're not following one specific character through the whole story, you get to kind of see these setups and moments and different things pay off, where, it kind of helps you see real life in a different way, because, you come into a conversation with someone and you start talking, you don't know what's immediately happened to them in real life sometimes. And they may have a completely irrational or blown out of proportion response to you that has nothing to do with what you just did. And you get to see that happen in the movie a couple of times. You see these kind of real, despite it being, kind of silly and ridiculous, how exaggerated some of these things are. It's very real, I think. I think that's one of the beautiful things about this movie, is that it lands really close to home in a slightly exaggerated way, to where, maybe this day didn't happen, but a lot of elements that were in this day are very believable, very realistic, and very, I think true to life. You've got, Ethan Embry plays Mark, who's kind of this pothead wannabe punk musician guy, and he's just a complete and utter goofball in this movie. I just recently saw him. I just got caught up on all The Walking Dead, and I saw him in there, and every time I see him, I think of Mark from this movie, who, which is one of the first movies I saw him in, after, what was that one? Can't Hardly Wait, I guess, was the first time I really saw him. But anyway, Empire Records, it's a great movie. It's funny. It feels short when you look at the runtime, but I think it's just perfect. It's only like an hour and a half, which I think is a great time for this movie, because it runs, you get enough. It doesn't feel like anything particularly dragged out too much, and it doesn't feel like you really missed out on anything. Of course, I'm the type, I can always go for a little bit more, but I think this movie's done really well, and they handle and juggle all these different characters pretty well. You get to see kind of beginning, middle, and end for all the story points for most of the characters they set up. And there's a couple, that are just kind of secondary, but they really add emotion and depth to it. Like Robin Tooney's boyfriend, or her character's boyfriend in the movie, he doesn't really come until about halfway through, but there's this whole different dynamic that he brings into it, because he's definitely one of the older employees of the store, and there's just a different level going on there, different like maturity level that some of the other characters don't have, and it's great. I think this movie is a lot of fun. I watch it frequently. It makes me laugh, and there's a lot of great quotes in it. A lot of them coming from the Lucas's character. You even get there's this kind of recurring story with this shoplifter kid, Warren, who's real well. He tells everyone his name's Warren Beatty, and it's he's one of the highlights. Some of the scenes with him are really funny. But yeah, Empire Records. It's a good one. Directed by Alan Moyle. I had to look that up. I'm sorry, I didn't remember the name. And I read somewhere that this was written by someone who worked in, I believe it was Tower Records, and it was kind of slightly inspired by or based on, you know, anecdotes and things from their store and people they knew or whatever. So, but yeah, so Empire Records, it's one of my favorite movies. It is number 13 on my top 13 list. Next week I'll bring you number 12, and we'll work my way down to number 1. But yeah, so I saw this probably in like 98, 99, and it has stuck with me as one of my favorites. For a while it had gotten bumped off of my list and was replaced with something else, but recently I just decided it needed to get back on that list because it just, I don't know, it just has a special place in my heart. It's, you know, like I said, it captures so much of the 90s that I remember and love, whether I was a part of it or not. You know, that's just, you know, the epitome of my middle school, high school, and most of my college career are encapsulated in that decade. So it's really fun to see something that's such a, again, I think, timeless story in a very dated, but not awkwardly dated setting. So yeah, so check it out, Empire Records, if you haven't seen it yet. You know, it's Blu-ray DVD. I'm sure you can get it off iTunes or Amazon or wherever you get movies. Make sure you go buy it or rent it. Don't download or stream it. Or like, if you can stream it, do it legally. Do not download illegal movies. I'm very not a fan of that. So yes, Empire Records, great movie, 1995, very funny, great soundtrack, a lot of great music on there. I mean, and the music goes all over the place. You go from, you know, you get Gin Blossoms are in there. Who I'm drawing a blank on a lot of the music. I looked over the soundtrack listing, but there's a lot of great music in there. AC/DC. It's a real hodgepodge of music. Guar even makes a special appearance in one of Mark's little moments where he's watching TV or a music video, and he kind of has a special moment with some brownies with extra sugar. Yeah. So anyway, check it out, Empire Records. Highly recommend it, and I'll see you on Wednesday for Beardy's Books, and then I'll see you next Sunday for number 12 on my top 13 countdown. Have a great weekend. Peace.